Hi and welcome to this Cosmia Festival 2021 event brought to you in partnership with Kirklees Libraries. You can find details on the rest of the programme by visiting our website, which is cosmiafestival.co.uk, or by finding us on social media where we're Cosmia Festival basically everywhere. If you want to support the festival further, we have our Ko-Fi link which helps fund future editions like 2022, where we should have a full programme and be back in person, fingers crossed. But for now, stay safe, enjoy the show, and we'll see you very soon.
Okay, hello everyone and welcome to today's Cosmia event. We're joined today by the fantastic author Geraldine McCaughrean. Geraldine is the author of a staggering 170 books to date, including Peter Pan in Scarlet, Where the World Ends and many others. And here is a selection of her books on here. Right. Okay. And today we're looking at her latest book, The Supreme Lie, which is here. And I've absolutely loved reading this, as has my daughter, who's 15, going on 16, the same age as the main character in the book, who's called Gloria. So you really need to read this book. It's absolutely brilliant. And I thought we'd watch a short clip to introduce the book, which is here. Okay, so I'll hand over to Dinah now. I'll pass over to Dinah.
Hi everyone. Hi. Geraldine, welcome. Geraldine is a multi-award-winning author and we're so lucky to have her here today. 2 of her books have won the Carnegie Medal. That is the British Literary Award that each year recognises an outstanding new English language for children or young adults. So without further ado, let's find out more from Geraldine and welcome her to the Kirklees Libraries and Cosmia Festival. Hello, Geraldine. Oh, at last we meet you.
I'm not there, but I'm here.
Fantastic.
Lovely. Okay, we've got lots of questions for you today, Geraldine. Some that we've had already that have come through. But don't forget, the audience can also ask questions during the broadcast on the live feed on YouTube, Twitter and Facebook. So if you'd like to ask Geraldine any questions, please type them in and we'll try and ask the questions during the session. Okay, so we'll start off with the first question. And it's here. So there we go. So we've just lived through a global pandemic. How has the experience of this made you feel about the topic you chose for this, The Supreme Lie?
Well, the book was finished before the pandemic even began. And if I'm honest, I was quite startled and very pleased that it got taken up as a book about climate change. It really wasn't. It's not against climate change or anything. Far from it. But it was not really. It's really about how people behave when calamity strikes. And which I reckon is in a great many different ways. And the flood was actually based on a flood that was that happened just under 100 years ago. And so of course, the books about water and floods. Books about floods are about the oldest thing in the world. I mean, they predate Noah, Philip Pullman did a terrific flood, didn't he?
Yes.
And I have a feeling that wasn't about climate change. I may be wrong about that, but water washes away. It washes away life, everyday life, and it's unstoppable and it's pitiless. But in a book, in fiction, the flood is not the villain. The people are the villain. The people are the villains and heroes. And the flood is an inanimate object.
It creates different behaviors, doesn't it, that you don't often expect in people. And as you say, everybody reacts differently, and you see different personalities coming out in people that you didn't really expect. So
yes, some of them will look to see how they can help. Some will look to see how they can help themselves. Some of them will hide under the bed, and some will tackle the problem in a very practical way.
Absolutely, yeah. That brings me on, Geraldine, to the next question that we have. Because the pandemic has had such a massive effect on people's lives, and we've been living with it for so long, we wondered if that you might be responding to the pandemic in the things that you write about in your future books. Will you continue to sort of incorporate it into your work, perhaps, based on the pandemic that we've just gone through?
Well, I think that the market is going to be awash with pandemic books for several years.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people were writing them during lockdown. I mean, they were talking about it online. They were saying, I'm writing this book about. So it's very probably the last thing I think of doing. I do feel very, very strongly about fiction being an escapist thing for young people. It's important that it's escapist. So really, I'm not in. While the pandemic is bright in their memories, I would write about almost anything else, just to take somewhere else, and to give them a good time, basically, to some relief from, because it's been so stressful, hasn't it? It's been hugely stressful. And I think probably what fiction could benefit from not going on and on about how the world might be coming to an end, and not climate change. That's different. That's different, and kids get very into that, and they take it very seriously. But things like, the whole world's going to die. That's it's not a good thing to spend as a teenager, is it? Thinking, am I actually ever going to make it into adulthood? So, no, I'm very much in favour of escapism. I'm not keen on futuristic either. I don't know why, really. I think there's just so many authors out there that do it better than I would. My tendency is to look to the past and foreign countries and things like that. That's a bit of a bane, actually, now, for doing foreign countries, because they're not allowed. It's just not allowed to write about somebody else's country anymore. And I've written, most of my books have been in various places around the world, which was fun to research and so forth. And gave you loads of background knowledge. If you look up South American countries online and find out all about them. But so I'm going to be cabin cribbed and confined a bit by having to keep it to being British.
Right, we've got another question here, and it's I'm fascinated in the way you merge the themes of climate disaster and fake news in The Supreme Lie. What made you choose this approach?
Well, it occurred to me that in a flood, without any contact from the people outside the city wall, it would be incredibly easy for someone who was actually trying to make to benefit from the flood, to manipulate what people were thinking. They could even terrorize them, cow them into submission by telling them scary lies. Now, I don't actually think that the British press is particularly manipulative of its custom, except in regard to politics, which is bad enough. But it's not like a totalitarian state where they can put out any number of lies and nobody will know the difference. And you can definitely subordinate and cow people like that. But I don't tend to think that our newspapers are like that. But then that wasn't really the point of doing it.
We can hear a dog in the background.
Oh, sorry, that's my doggy. I'll just mute myself for 2 minutes.
Maybe a dog.
It's quite ironic because readers of the book will know that there's some dogs in the story. So,
Yes.
so we've been haunted. Oh.
I would like to say to teen readers that they should be careful of reading stuff on the internet. Be careful what you hear and take everything with a pinch of salt. But that wasn't my point. The chief element of the newspaper thing is that the newspaper is a key. It's a key element of the plot.
Yeah.
And it starts off, the newspaper in the book starts off being a good thing run by an excellent woman, and then then things change because bad stuff is afoot. So that's what the newspaper was doing. It was saying that even one person could step into that world and use it to their own advantage.
Thank you, Geraldine. So, Geraldine, I love puzzles, and I think Nicola does. We were talking, weren't we, about how we enjoy puzzles, and especially anagrams. They really, really stretch that brain, especially as you get to be my age. But and they really caught our interest. What gave you the idea to put those in the book?
Well, it's as you tend to put into books what the things that are you like doing, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't matter tuppence if the reader skips over them when they're looking at those newspaper pages. Or can we see a couple of the newspaper pages?
Oh, yes, please. Yeah, because the illustrations are great.
I'd never been offered really with a book was illustrations, and it just made the newspaper bit work.
Right. I'll just see if we can get them on screen. Let's have a look. So let's have a look. Do we want the is it Cosmia Pix 2?
Any of them?
Yeah, right. We'll share that one. There we go. Can you see that?
Yes. The dam being demolished in the photograph. And there's the fantastic logo for the. It made such a difference to the book that those newspapers were there, but you didn't actually have to read them word for word. In that way, that if you're reading a book and you find an illustration, you don't actually know whether it's pictorial or whether it's supposed to. So a reader will often. Just turn over the page. They'll look at the picture and then turn over the page. But it doesn't matter with the anagrams, because you can always go back to them when you realise that they do actually signify something. And when Gloria and Timor twig that the anagrams mean something, then the people will go back, I think, and have a look for themselves, see if they can work them out.
it brings some added fun to the story in the book, doesn't it, for the reader? It's great.
Okay, we've got another question here that's come up. So what made you want to include a subplot about the lost dogs of, is it Afalia?
Afalia. Yes,
And to include
consider how you pronounce it. Yes. It's important.
and to include Heinz's perilous journey. Oh.
Yeah. Well, there was a structural point to the dog plots, because the intention was that the dogs would mirror what was happening inside the city. That some were going feral, some were behaving, were palling up, some were cowering in terror, and some were just some were the good guys, still looking for their owners and loving the human beings. So that was supposed to mirror the difference in the people. But actually, I wasn't able to do it because editors are a wonderful thing. Editors are a great advantage, and they pointed out that it broke up the ability to follow the story, the main plot, too much. If those chapters on the dogs were too long, you couldn't quite remember what had happened before. So I had to shorten all of the dog chapters. So some of it, that element was lost, but all the same, it did give a kind of extra layer of hero characters to it. Heinz is nice. I liked Heinz.
Yeah, I know.
Also, I did have a dog, Daisy.
Shall I find a picture of Daisy? I think we got a picture of Daisy, haven't we? So, right, I'll just try.
And I love Daisy too much not to immortalise her a little bit.
So Daisy was one of your dogs, Geraldine, is that right? You had a dog, yeah. Oh, he's looking up longingly, isn't she? She's
don't they? Yes. Butter wouldn't melt. And could she have butter, please? Yeah.
And how would Daisy have reacted in a disaster, do you think, your own Daisy?
As a brick, she would not have noticed. The Daisy in the book is my Daisy. But so lovely. Really lovely.
And you can hear that because Daisy was your dog, and in the past the passion and how you write about Daisy, you feel the love. Yeah. Good.
Daisy lives.
So Geraldine, just wanted to ask you about the town of Praesto. Is that how you say it?
Oh yes,
Praesto. Yeah. So where did you get your inspiration from for the town of Praesto?
Well, I didn't really. I think it's pure invention. The fact that it's full of factories alone. Timor, there's a whole page that Timor says to Gloria about the fact that just, if you're ever running a country, don't make it rely on one industry. And that is one of the failings of Afalia, is that it's created this monolithic industrial thing, and all of its people are very much subjugated to working in these factories, which has separated them entirely from the people up on the hill, and the shopkeepers. So that was the kind of nature. But there was nowhere in the world that I knew of that was quite like a failure.
Yeah,
there are districts. I suppose there are places where one industry has gone. We have seen that recently with like whole somewhere that's completely dependent on the car factory.
Yeah.
Or homes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen that happen, and when they go, that whole town or village or city is devastated.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Local to us, we have areas that were very much predominantly mining or steel. And when the mines went, that created such, heartache and hardship for the people living in that town. And so not relying on one industry. There's a message there, isn't there?
Yeah, and all your kids have to go somewhere else to get work. So it breaks up whole families, doesn't it? Just apart from destituting people. Diversification.
Yes.
Okay, this is quite a long question, is this? So let's see if it'll go on the screen. Oh, yes, it will. So if we were in the same predicament with the threat of floods and destruction, how do you think you would react? Would you be like any of the characters in the book?
No, I'd be hiding under the bed. I'm an arrant coward. No, I wouldn't. I know that what's her name? Oh, I can't remember what her name is. Catherine Rundell. That's it. Catherine Rundell. She would be running across the rooftops and walking across a tightrope across the water and escaping while carrying a couple of dogs under each arm and a baby around her neck. She would rescue everybody in sight single-handedly. No, I'd be hiding under the bed. I would want to know. I'm absolutely hopeless. I suppose that's why I took up writing, because someone's like this pusillanimous little thing that wouldn't say boo to a goose. So I like to climb inside my head, you see, and inside my head I could be as brave as anything. Or Heinz. I could be I did learn to fly a plane once, but
wow, something we didn't know about, Geraldine.
I had to read up because I had no sense of direction, and I was terrified of not finding the landing field.
Brilliant.
When it came to writing about planes, it was quite useful.
Lovely.
Are you all right for another question, Geraldine?
Of course I am, yes.
Fantastic. So when you write and you're including things that happen in your stories and in your books, are you encouraging your readers to inspire, to think or act differently?
No, absolutely not. I consider myself an entertainer. Let other I proselytize it. It's if a reader comes to admire one of my characters, all well and good, that's lovely.
Yeah.
But I just want them to enjoy themselves while they're there. I want them to spend time in the cinema of my brain, and come out of it sort of blinking and gratified that it all panned out nicely, and just lose themselves really for a while. Take a holiday between the covers, as it were.
Yeah. Perfect. Excellent.
Empathy. I do feel quite strongly about that empathy is not necessarily learned at birth, and sometimes I think we do have to. It's really that I don't think you can be fully human without the gift of empathy. So I think I probably would always. But it is always my intention that my reader. Well, at least my hope that the reader will come out of a book feeling empathetic towards the characters inside.
Yeah. Lovely. Oh, thank you, Geraldine. Lovely. So we're coming to a point now that we're sort of about halfway through, and we wondered whether you would read a little bit from the book. Would that be okay?
Yes. Let me see. Yes, there you go. Something to look at while I read. To put you in the picture, Gloria had just been visiting the people working in the factories. She was unbelievably in disguise, pretending to be the Suprema of all Afalia. But it's all gone really rather well, and people seem to like it. Now she's on her way home with the real Suprema's husband, Timor, and the real Suprema's dog, Daisy, and she's very happy. Never since she'd come to the city to work had Gloria felt special or important. Even at home in sawmills, no one had treated her like a queen or gazed at her bright-eyed. Only the sight of that horrible flooded basement could graze her shiny memories of a perfect day. That and Timor's total silence. When they reached Foremost Mansion, she thanked the chauffeur, so that he'd like her too, and prized Daisy up off the floor of the car where she'd fallen asleep exhausted. As the front door shut behind her, she laughed out loud in sheer relief. "Did I do good, sir?" she asked, and turned to look at Timor. He had both arms clasped over his head and his knees bent, as if the ceiling was falling on him in large chunks. He whispered through clenched teeth, "You, miss, are an utter liability." But the newspapers didn't call her a liability when next day it spread her praises over 5 pages. A caption of one of the photographs called Daisy the mascot of the workers. Timor threw it directly in the bin, unread. But Gloria retrieved it, smuggled it upstairs to her attic room and pushed it under the bed, just in case one day she might be able to show it to her family and say, "That's me there. It is, really, honestly."
Oh, you see, I love that chapter, Geraldine, because it for me, that does show empathy, thinking about poor Gloria never having had, praise and feeling good about herself and doing something like that. And then, that happens. So yeah, it really tugs at my heartstrings, that one. And good for her. She's still going to keep that newspaper thing, no matter what he says.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Geraldine. That's brilliant. Brilliant fun. So we got another question here. So what was your journey to becoming a writer?
Well, I didn't set out to do it. Well, I have this brother. My brother Neil is 3 years older than I am, and brilliant, absolutely brilliant at everything he did as a boy. He could make models and he could do jokes and invent games and tape things and squirrel up the tapes into something different. Oh, he was just genius. Built a scale model of our house and furnished all the rooms right down to the wallpaper and everything. And when he was 13, he wrote a book about the Poggies, and he typed it up, drew all the pictures, and bound it in a cornflakes packet and sent it off.
Oh,
and it got and the woman at Harrop, the editor at Harrop, gave it to her children to read, and they fell off the bed laughing. So she published it, and it's still on Amazon, despite this being 50 years ago.
Wow. Does it have cornflakes on the front?
You can't get it anywhere, but it's got 5-star reviews from 5. But obviously, I wanted to be just like my brother Neil, and I wanted to write, but I didn't really have his skill. I did have one inspirational teacher at school. She was great, but the school in general thought I was rubbish. I was absolute rubbish, and invited me. They suggested I should leave because I was a waste of their time academically. I didn't. I said, "Look, if I do O-level Russian, can I stay on, please?" And my Russian teacher was so despised by the staff for liking the Russians, or actually even mentioning the Russians or teaching Russian, that she was a bit of a pariah too. But she was great. She was a wonderful teacher, and she encouraged me to write. And she introduced me to a college friend of hers, who was just happened to be the editor of children's fiction at OUP. Oh. So he was a bit of a lucky break. He really was a bit of a lucky break. I won a competition, a short story competition in London somewhere, and that got me an agent. And I wrote adult books for him for a while. None of them sold. All the companies kept going broke. I don't think that was directly me. It was just that the time in the history of books when everything went up, belly up. But I trained as a teacher, and I knew from day one I couldn't do it. Well, I certainly knew from my first placement in schools, I'm never going to be a teacher. I'm so terrified of kids. I'm not terrified anymore, but it's a bit late now. So I went up and did all kinds of other things. I did have a proper job. I did honestly. I went to a magazine company, which was awesome, and taught me a lot. But there again, it was never going to go anywhere because I'd just been awarded a major prize. And I got called up to upstairs to where the directors were, and I thought, oh, they're going to congratulate me. How kind! And they said, we think that basically we think that you're a waste of our time academically. But no, they said that they thought that I was unambitious. I was unambitious because I didn't want to be promoted. I said, no, I didn't want to be promoted. I just wanted to get on with being a sub-editor. I was a good sub-editor. I could do that. And I just wanted to write in the lunchtime and on the commuting on the train, standing up in both directions, writing my books. That's when I wrote most of my books.
While standing up on the train.
Up on the train, yeah. Wow. It's quite a feat, isn't it?
It is.
I've got a particular feather in my authorship cap.
Fantastic.
Anyway, then sort of one thing and another with knowing Ron and things, he got me started, and I don't know how it happened after that. It's all a blur, really. An absolute blur. But somehow or other, I stopped doing adult books because I felt so inadequate. They were just all scholarly, all adult writers they've all been to university, and I've been to university, and they've read everything in sight, and I haven't read everything in sight. I'm a really slow reader, which is another reason why I took up writing as a child. I could achieve a narrative quicker by writing it than I could by reading it. I was a keen reader, but all the same, it was more fun writing it down. But then somehow people ended up reading it. It was reading stuff. It was very odd. I don't know. I look over my shoulder and think, I'll be found out one day. I still do that. I medals, and I still think, oh, they're going to find me out one day. I'm not real. I'm not kosher.
Well, with so many books published, Geraldine, you've proved them wrong, haven't you? Absolutely. I just wondered, out of all the books that you've written, which has been your favourite to write and to read?
Well, the next one, I suppose I should say. It's always, there's always the possibility that the next one I write will be the best thing I write. But I suppose Peter Pan in Scarlet was important. It was because it was worthwhile, and you can't really say that about most books. You can say they're fun or they're enjoyable or something, but you can't say that they're actually worthwhile, because this was to raise money for Great Ormond Street Hospital.
That was
also very good to me, because it enabled me to send my daughter to house my daughter while she was at RADA in London. So it was a really life-changing thing, and it's sold in 45 countries and 50 languages, whichever way around it is, 45 languages and 50 countries. So it was that was really great. But I think I still kind of harken back to the White Darkness. You got the White Darkness there.
Yes, let's have a look. I'll share my screen and let's have a look for it.
Ron,
there, yeah, sorry.
Ron, my editor, said about this when I presented it to him. Well, it's very odd, isn't it? I don't know if anybody's going to read it or like it, but I like it, so I'm going to publish it. he was that kind of editor. He was just lovely. Everything was just, he liked it. He published it.
Excellent.
And while I was writing it, I was going around Australia or New Zealand with my daughter, and so it was very hot, and which is peculiar because it's set in Antarctica. Lying on a New Zealand beach, writing about Antarctica. But I remembered exactly what it was like, what it felt like to be a teenager, and it wasn't good. It really wasn't good. And I thought at the time, nobody knows that when you're a teenager, you don't know that it isn't the worst time of your life. It probably is the worst time of your life, because you have to get through it, and you think that everybody else knows more than you do. And you think that they've all got it sussed and you haven't, and so that's what the heroine is doing, and she lives in her imagination with this with the his name. So tell me who he is. Tell me who my hero is. Yes. I'm sorry. Names are not my strong point. Captain Oates. Yeah, Captain Oates. She has him in her imagination, and he's her companion. And I don't know. I just love being inside that book. And I got, I think I got that. One thing that endeared it to me was a review on Amazon from somebody in the middle of America somewhere or other thing, and she just said this soulful little, I didn't think anyone else in the world thought like this. I just wanted to. You can't send a message back on Amazon if it's your page. And I just wanted to write back to her and say, it's all right. It's all right. It gets better.
After today, I'll go to Amazon and I'll reply to her if I can. I'll say I've been in a live interview with Geraldine, and she says, don't worry, it does get better.
She's probably 40 now. Yeah. She's going to be considerably older now.
Oh dear. When you mentioned about all your books in the different languages, Geraldine, I just conjured up a picture of, have you got some of them at home on your shelves in the different languages to look at to see the...
Yes. Oh yes.
Yeah,
wow. Dedicated bookcase to foreign books, and some of them are beautiful. The ones from like Japan and
yes,
and
yeah.
Beautiful covers.
Yeah. Oh, that must be
unusual. Very imaginative.
Very nice. Lovely.
Because of the languages. I mean, like my partner's Ukraine, seeing the actual letters, it's beautiful seeing those different, writing done in different languages. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and the artwork is so completely different.
Yeah.
Lovely.
It's a treat.
Okay, I got another question here. So you've won the Carnegie Medal twice, once in 1988 for A Pack of Lies, and again in 2018 for Where the World Ends. How has the experience of winning the medal changed over 30 years?
Oh, an awful lot. Yeah, first time round, quick sandwiches in an upstairs room, shambling about among the great and the good, a bit bewildered, absolutely delighted, but just disbelieving, and then later on, a big dinner with a huge long table in at the get together for the year, when the person sat alongside me, the chairman of the judges, he was, I think, he spent the time insisting that he had no idea what happened at the end of the book. He didn't understand the end of the book. Could I explain to him at the end of the? He didn't. Really had not liked the book at all.
Oh gosh. Oh dear.
I don't mind. I got the medal.
Exactly.
And this time, but this time round, I mean, it's a while back now, but yeah, it was unbelievable. Just the same again. But so different on the PR front. The phone calls in the green room before it was announced from the newspaper people, and in loads of noise and trying to say something intelligent down the telephone to somebody that just wants you to say that you, what is it that you? Oh, they got my speech. Yes, that I hated I hated publishers and really unhelpful things, The author slams judges. I didn't do anything to say just before you get presented with a medal by the judges. You've just fulfilled your dream of a lifetime. Anyway, it was a dream of a lifetime, but it involved trains and tours and interviews. Television, radio, all kinds of stuff.
Gosh.
Very mesmerising, but I'll get over it.
Oh dear. Now this one, Geraldine, this is amazing. You write a new book nearly every year. And we know how quickly a year goes, but how do you keep your ideas and inspiration flowing?
Oh, well, I am slowing up. I'm definitely slowing up. There was one year when I wrote 10 books in a year. One of them was a substantial novel.
Wow.
A few were short books, and the rest were kind of picture books or just little short things. But 10, I'm definitely slacking now. Definitely down to 1. No, that's not true. Actually, this year I've had 3 books come out. But
gosh, wow!
they get stuck in a traffic jam, really, and all come out at once. I don't have to. I don't. They just come. Yeah, they just turn up at the door. They turn up at the door and ask to be in a book, and ask me, and it'd be rude not to let them in, wouldn't it? So I let in all these characters, and I sort of generally, I said, who was it? So he said he used to walk in the woods with his characters. Oh, Dickens! It was Dickens.
Yeah,
I used to walk in the woods with my characters until I knew them. That's lovely. Yes, I can understand that. So I will. I used to just start writing a book and write it. Open it the cover and write it straight through. Hardly any corrections. It was never legible, but it was. There were no scribblings out. Nowadays, I'll write. I write on cards. Lots of look at my ideas down first and put them in a box of cards, and little by little I'll sort of put the thing together. And if I can get an opening, it's a bit like having a cart stuck in the mud at the top of a hill, and you have to push and push for a bit. But then once it picks up, once it's over the lip, it's on its way down, it'll pick up momentum. Yes. And then the characters kick in and they kind of tell you what to do. It does sound, always sounds a bit cockamamie that they tell you what to do, but somehow they do. And it is an amazing thing when you can put two characters together in a darkened room. And just watch them, and sooner or later they will say, one of them will say something to the other, and you don't necessarily know what they were going to say. It's bizarre, weird. So my shower is the best thing at the moment. Yes. I find the most inspirational moment of the day is having a shower, and then I'll come out of that
and quickly write it down.
Exactly. You have to get it down fast.
Yeah, because it goes otherwise.
If I wake up in the middle of the night and I think, all right, I'll just put that down tomorrow, it's gone by morning. It's awful.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? If you don't write it down in the morning, you're digging deep for that idea that you have, and it just doesn't come, and you're so cross that you didn't write it. Yeah.
It's all the notes around the house. Yes.
Wonderful.
I think we've got a couple of questions left before we answer this one here. Why did you choose to write young adult fiction for the Supreme Lie?
Well, it sort of had to be. It's a very complex plot, and it is complex. It's a complex plot that you have to remember things that happened earlier, and see how things fit together. And that would be a strain for middle grade. So it sort of had to be a teen novel, and also I aged my character accordingly to what I think it will be. I can always alter the age of my character, but then the dialogue has to change as well. So yes, it was always going to be about Gloria's for people Gloria's age. Perfect.
And last question, Victoria's got. Have you got the question?
I get to ask the really exciting question. So, Geraldine, for the listeners out there, can you give us a teaser of what you might be working on now?
Well,
just a little one.
I will read you what my agent said when I sent it to her. I loved it. I can't pretend it's not one of the most eccentric and surreal books I've read in a very long time, but it's unique and properly funny. So I'm going to cling to that because I don't think that anybody's going to publish it. I don't know why, but I just think that probably they're not going to publish it because it's too eccentric. But I can half have fun writing it, and I suppose I have to content myself with it's a funny market at the moment, and I think I think that particular book probably doesn't tick any of the right boxes at the moment, so I might have to just keep it under the bed with my my favourite hiding place. Yes.
Going back to what we talked about at the beginning, we need something funny. We do. We need to, take us out of what we've gone through over the last 18 months. So
Well, I
hope she changes her mind, because we want fun.
I've just received a copy of this, which is newly out, which is quite beautiful book.
Yes,
Yeah,
lovely.
absolutely.
So that's the thing, my latest book, in fact, and very suitable for Christmas.
And is that a picture book, Geraldine?
It's a very beautiful picture book by Peter Maloney. Did the pictures, and I mean they're glorious.
Oh gosh, yes,
Yeah,
beautiful.
Lovely.
Yeah, lovely.
absolutely.
Very nice. Okay. So were there any more pictures that you'd like us to share, Geraldine, before we go today?
I can't think what we've got. No, well, only the not where the world ends.
Okay.
I was
Right.
confused with not
Yep, I'll
the end of
get
the
that.
world, which is another one of mine, and I still get them mixed up.
Right, I'll get that on screen. There we go. There.
Yeah, that's
Very happy.
my second one, my second Carnegie.
Carnegie.
Which was, unbelievably enjoyable. That was the book. I didn't imagine it would take off at all. It's very Scottish. It's very historical. It's quite bleak, and somehow or other, everybody liked it. And it wasn't. Some of my books, I thought, oh yes, I love this book. I really love this book. I hope everybody else loves it as much. I didn't dislike Where the World Ends. I was quite happy with it, but I really didn't think it would be the stuff of medals, which was glorious. So, yeah, thank you very much, Carnegie.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I think we're coming to the end of the session now. So it's been absolutely fantastic having you on here, Geraldine. Thank you so much for coming and answering
It's been a
all
privilege.
our
Absolute
questions.
privilege.
Yeah, absolutely. We loved having you.
No, not at all. Thank you very much for asking questions.
Okay. So yeah, I think it's just time to say goodbye. We'll see everybody soon.
Well, good luck with the rest of the. Good luck.
Thanks, Geraldine. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.